So Adria will be covering getting started with X++ development and ALM. Okay, so a lot of the developers, a lot of people I've been speaking to in the developer community do not follow fundamental basics on ALM for X++. When I originally started this community almost 10 years ago, one of the common things I noticed among the Dynamics 365 developer community was our code quality was quite poor. We weren't applying industry standards on our development. And so what Adria will be covering today on basic development concepts and CI/CD automation is very, very important because it seems to be a standard in some places, but not others, right? It's still very much not a standard way of working. So I think many people will benefit from this in the F&O development community because it's such an old community working with on-prem to the cloud. And that's followed with the one and only Anitha, who will be covering OData queries for F&O. So to get familiar with the APIs for F&O, this is going to be a great starter for you to start building out your OData queries. And then we've got the one and only Andre. Now, Andre will be covering security, and he will be making a few announcements around that as well. But he will be obviously covering the core fundamental concepts around F&O security, as well as mentioning some of the new announcements that are happening in the space for F&O security as well. And then we've got Lane. So if you don't know who Lane is, Lane Swenka is a program manager for Microsoft. And he is in the Power Apps team, but he was previously a well-known Dynamics 365 developer in the developer community. And just by looking at his title, how it's changed from being someone who was working in the F&O space to now being in the Power Apps space tells you a lot about where F&O is going. And he will be sharing some of that information in his keynote. So it was a huge pleasure to have him to give the keynote today. Now it's all about advanced warehouse mobile apps, right? We get a lot of inquiries all the time about the warehouse mobile app for supply chain. And it is an advanced topic. So it will be expect a level 300/level 400 topic by Shabib Jaffrey, who's kindly doing this session and covering this area that's been demanded by everyone. We heard what you asked for, and we're covering the topics that you've asked for, okay? And I have to admit, I do get contacted a lot about the warehouse mobile app. Okay, and then that's followed by integrations, okay? So integration patterns will be delivered by Beau and Nathan. And then finally, the final session of the day, last but not least, Nathan Klaus. Nathan is also one of the key organizers as well for this bootcamp. And so Nathan will be covering performance troubleshooting for developers. Last week, he covered performance troubleshooting for administrators. And today, he'll be covering for developers. I know there's a lot of interest in this topic. He does a lot of work in this area. I'm sure many of us do a lot of work in this area around performance tuning for F&O. And so we're wrapping up on an excellent topic that you're all very much interested in that and have a common investment in. So before we introduce our next speaker, just to finally announce, thank you for our sponsors, Docs42. Docs42 are supporting many of our community events around the world and help us to make these community events free for everyone, as well as Stadium and our other sponsors. So I want to thank you to the sponsors who are supporting the community. As you know, many of us have to pay a lot of money for training, and it's our mission to make that training free and accessible to everyone, okay? We want to grow the community. We want to put you on the journey with us to enhance your skills in this ever-evolving world in the Microsoft ecosystem. So once again, huge thanks to Docs42 and Stadium for supporting this event. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker of the day, which is none other than Fatih. Hello there, Fatih.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you, Fatih. So there we can see Fatih. We can see your screen. Actually, we can see your camera. Are you able to share your screen? Let's stop sharing now and let's.
I shared my screen.
Excellent. We can see your screen. So once again to everyone, so it's a huge pleasure for Fatih, who's a Microsoft MVP and MCT, to be kicking off the bootcamp today. He's well known in the development space. He's delivered a lot of the development bootcamps in the past. So without further ado, Fatih, over to you.
Thank you, Ras. Welcome, everyone. I am happy to have you all here today for this session. Today, I will guide you through everything you need to know about becoming a successful Dynamics 365 FO developer. I will try to cover essential skills, career opportunities, and impact of AI in the future. ERP systems are the heart of the business operations, and need highly skilled developer has never been a greater. Okay, we know AI is changing the game, but we have lots of things to do. So let's get started. Here is what we'll cover today to ensure you leave this session with the clear roadmap for your career as a X++ Dynamics 365 developer. First, we will start introduction and overview, key roles and business application, technical roles, also functional and management roles. Also, we will cover developer responsibilities, required skills, and tools which we are using. Also, we will talk about career paths and challenges. Of course, we will talk about AI and future of ERP development. You know, right now we are calling AI ERP, our ERP system. And we will explore key investment areas in ERP development, learning resources and community involvement, and advanced certification also will be our focus. And lastly, we will have a QA session, if you have a question, of course. Before diving into this session, let me introduce myself. My name is Fatih Demirci, and I am a Microsoft MVP and MCT with lots of experience in ERP development. I started to coding in 2001 and started to coding Axapta X++ in 2006. So I have over 20 years experience. Last 15 years, I am an MCT. Also, in the last 5 years, I am an MVP. Also, I am a co-founder and partner at DMR, which is a Microsoft solution partner specializing in ERP and CRM solution. Over these years, I worked with numerous businesses, helping them optimize their ERP system. Mostly I do coding, of course, but I like to training, mentoring developers, sharing knowledge, and staying ahead of emerging technologies like AI and automation in ERP. I strongly believe in the power of community and continuous learning. That's why I actively trying to contribute Dynamics 365 ecosystem throughout my blog, my YouTube channel, and other social media environment. I look forward to exchange ideas, sharing experience, and learning together. Now let's get started. This presentation aims to provide a roadmap for those who are interested in becoming Dynamics 365 developer or advancing their career in this field. By the end of this session, you will have a clear understanding of what is the developer doing in the system and how to improve yourself. I try to talk about step by step. If you have a question, of course, at the end of the session, I am happy to answer. And let's start with the key technical roles in a business application. I added this slide because I want you to understand the key roles in our world. In the world of business application, of course, delivering successful solution requires a diverse set of technical roles, each contributing to different aspects of the ecosystem and a project. Of course, our focus is developer today, but sometimes developers should do other responsibilities. Also, developers can be candidate for these other roles, like solution architect, team leads. Of course, sometimes a core X++ developer needs to know RPA development or cloud, sometimes data engineering, sometimes AI. So we need to know these roles, and we need to understand what they are doing in business application, and sometimes we need to do their responsibilities and learn their responsibilities too. Each of these roles plays a significant part of successful modern businesses. So, of course, we have a functional roles in our system also. In any successful Dynamics 365 project, multiple roles collaborate to ensure smooth implementation and adapting and long-term success. While developers and technical consultants play a vital role, it's important to recognize broad ecosystem of professionals involved: consulting, business analysts, solution architects, team leads, industry specialists, or product owners. Especially in our projects, we are working with consultant and business analysts a lot. So our main contact is these roles, and we need to understand what they are doing and how can we help them and how can they help us. It's important to communicate with them in the projects and in the works is very crucial. Also, we have, of course, management roles. Beyond the technical expertise, the success of business application also relies on a strong leadership and management. And these key management roles ensure projects are delivered effectively, teams are aligned with the business goals, and customer satisfaction is achieved. Developer can also be candidates for these management roles. You know, sometimes our goal is to become a manager, but sometimes we prefer to stay a technical guy, technical engineer guy. But knowing these roles is also important. Let's look at some roles, for example, customer success manager, project managers, program managers. These roles actually makes our life easier in the projects and the customer side, etc. So working with these different roles and understanding the roles they are playing in the projects in the system is very important. I want to show you a very cliche cartoon. Probably you have seen this before, but I want to share it anyway because the cliche exists for a reason. Take a moment and look at it, and especially pay attention what the developer did. Not too bad, right? So it's a very cliche cartoon, but it's explain our daily life very well. Of course, we are trying to avoid this, but every time, every project has a different story. So I am little waiting for you to look at this. I'm changing. Okay. Now let's talk about key responsibilities. As a Dynamics 365 developer, you play a crucial role building and optimizing and maintaining business applications that drive efficiency and automation. Your responsibility goes beyond just writing code. You are a key player in delivering business solution. A developer must understand philosophy of Dynamics 365. Sometimes I see a developer who came from other domains like Java or other fields. They don't understand ERP philosophy, and they are coding like a banking system or like a communication system. It's not like that. You need to understand the philosophy of Dynamics 365 and ERP system, and you need to align with these solutions. Let's break down some of the core responsibilities. First of all, custom development. Of course, as a developer, you will be customizing system with X++. Sometimes you can use C# and .NET tools. Of course, right now we are using Power Platform to customize or extend our solution. Our main job is implementing customer requirement business logic, meet the requirement, and writing, optimizing, and troubleshooting some queries lots of times. Also, we have responsibilities for data management. Most of the time, if the customization required, we are creating table data entities, sometimes data management framework, and sometimes we are using integration tools like DualWrite, maybe APIs, OData services, etc. Also, one of the our main responsibility is performance optimization. When we are customizing system, we need to always focus on performance. If your solution is not working with perfectly, you have lots of problems. So system responses, database performances, sometimes batch jobs, parallel processing. There are lots of things to consider when it's come to performance optimization. Also, security and role management is most of the time is our responsibility. We need to create a proper security hierarchy. We need to create privileges, sometimes XDS, and of course user authentication, etc. Also, as a developer, we need to know the application lifecycle management. We are using DevOps, and in DevOps, Git or TFS we can use. Also, for our environment, we were using lifecycle services, but it's retiring now. We are beginning to start Power Platform admin centers. As a developer, you need to know these lifecycle management tools also. Also, one of in my company also, we are focusing on this. As a developer, understanding business process is very important. I don't want my developers to become a consultant. They are not finance consultant or supply chain consultant. But when we are talking about finance or supply chain or HR, the core business logic, knowing the core business logic is very important. If you understand core financial logic, for example, general ledger, budgeting, etc., financial dimension, etc., these concepts, then you can create more efficient and more usable solution to end user. And of course, we are responsible for testing and debugging, conducting unit tests, integration tests, and regression tests for developers is must. Also, lots of time we are facing with problems, and debugging is one of the strong tools we are using for solving these problems. And lastly, we are responsible to create user supports and technical supports, also creating technical documentation. Of course, other than these responsibilities, we have lots of other detailed responsibilities, but these are the key points I want to focus on today. Okay, now let's talk about required skill competencies in ERP developers. To become a successful FO developer, mastering a combination of technical and functional and soft skill is crucial. Let's go through the key components of define an expert in this field. First, let's start to talk about technical skills. Technical proficiency is the foundation of any developer's journey. In FO, developers must proficient in multiple technologies and tools. Of course, as a FO developer, you need to know X++ and an object-oriented language. Of course, knowing C#, .NET technologies, JavaScript, and Power Platform is also good for technical skills. And second, database management. Working with SQL Server, optimizing queries, indexing data, enhanced performance optimizations, creating a relational database is very important because our work starts with the database level. Also, ERP customization, utilizing extension, event handler, customizing form, tables, table methods, and best practices are very important. As a ERP developer, you will create lots of integration in your professional life. So knowing the integration technologies like OData, REST APIs, DualWrite, and other Integration technology is also very important. I talked about lifecycle management, DevOps, lifecycle services, etc. These are also very important tools. And knowing batch processing and batch jobs and security and authorization is technical skills you required. Also, business and functional knowledge. As I mentioned before, knowing the ERP business logic is very good for your professional life. So don't be like that. I don't care what is the business or how the HR works, how the finance work, etc. I'm trying to understand what the consultant or end user trying to accomplish and how this logic impacts their life and how they are working. When you understand these business logics, you will create more efficient and good solution for their requirements. I talked about, of course, problem solving and debugging issue. Plus, we have a huge system, and in this huge system, there can be lots of problems you can face. So testing and debugging is one of the key elements of finding and avoiding these problems. So you need to work on that too. Of course, while we are working, these technical skills not just enough. We need to communicate and we need to work as a team with other people. So soft skills also one of the most important part here. I will focus on soft skills a little bit detailed in the next slides. Also, right now we are in the era of AI. So AI featured skills is very important. When it's come to coding, I know everyone is using AI features to help in their daily life, but not just that. AI is changing how we are doing projects, how we create an ERP solution, how we are writing a business logic, etc. So you need to understand the feature of AI and AI ERP. And end of this, being a Dynamics 365 developer requires more than just a coding skill. It's about combining technical expertise, business understanding, and problem-solving abilities to deliver highly impacted solutions. By constantly learning and adapting new technologies like AI and automation, developers can stay ahead in this rapidly growing required fields. Okay, I want to show you another cartoon. This is what I like most about writing a solution for the clients. And in ERP projects and in any projects, you can see this. You will have requirements from sometimes end user, sometimes consultants. It's not completely clear. You need to make these requirements more clear and more understandable. If you do that, you can create a proper solution for their requirements. Okay. Now, let's talk about some essential soft skills. When it's come to soft skills, there are hundreds of soft skills. But as a developer, especially in ERP developer, you need to have at least, you need to improve these skills, I think. Of course, we can add or remove lots of new skills here, but I want to mention some of them for you. First of all, problem solving and analytic thinking. Every project comes with challenges, and great developer doesn't just fix issue, they find a sustainable solution. A quick fix is a great, but a long-term solution even better. So analytic thinking is very important when it's come to ERP developers. And the second is, I think, one of the most important part is communication and explaining technical skills and communicating with the other parties. One of the most important part. Explaining technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders in art. So sometimes we are understanding the issue or requirement, but we cannot make them understand. So if your solution is not tellable, it's not a great solution. It's not a really brilliant, right? You need to make other users or consultant to understand the solution and they can use it. Adaptability and continuous learning. Technology evolving fast. So should you do. And if you are not learning, you are falling behind. You always need to learn in this field. It's a constant learning job. Also, everything is urgent in our business. So time management and prioritizing is very important. Deadlines are real, and juggling tasks efficiently is must. We need to prioritize like a pro, because as I mentioned, everything is urgent. Until we say another or we say otherwise, we need to have a time management skills, very strong time management skills. Also, no project is solo mission. We are always working with the team, and team has lots of different people in it. Sometimes even with other countries, other how can I say, time zones, etc. So you need to work with these teams, understand them, and with their help, you need to create a solution for your customer. Also, understanding business needs is just as important as writing a great code. So customer-centric mindset and business acumen is very important. So also leadership and decision making. Great leaders don't wait for solutions, they are creating them. So you need to sometimes take action and be a leader of your team. Critical thinking and decision analysis also very important. Creativity and innovation in ERP and CRM, also Power Platform system are always evolving. With AI, it's also very fast right now. So creativity is very important. Negotiation and conflict resolution. Also, sometimes end user and consultants came requirements, and it's not good for technical perspective. But you need to negotiate with them. If you refuse directly, you are not creating a solution. So negotiation and conflict resolution is very important also, because everything is urgent and deadlines and system failures, and these are creating lots of stress. So stress management, and especially in ERP, and especially if your environment is running 24 hours every day. So it's very important to have a stress management skills. Also, in empathy and emotional intelligence, I think one of the key soft skills I want to mention here. Mastering these soft skills will help you go from being a good developer to outstanding one. Code is important, but communication, problem solving, ability make you truly stand out. The best developers aren't just the great coders. They are great problem solvers and communicators. If you are technically one of the best developers, but you cannot communicate and you cannot make them accept this solution, it's not important. You need to have at least these soft skills to accomplish more. Also, I have another slide here. When I started as a developer in almost 20 years ago, I see this one, and it was a very good for that time being. Right now, it's not that current, but still don't be like this. Okay. So let's talk about the career progression in the world of Dynamics 365 finance and operation development. Whether just starting or aiming leadership or these paths for everyone. In career path, you can start as a junior. Of course, some internship, you can start with internship, but let's start junior, mid-level, senior. Then you can become a team lead or solution architect or development management. Even you can become a head of engineering or CTO, other CEO level management roles. These all are the career steps you can take. I write some years here, 0 to 2, 2 to 5, etc. But these are not important. These are not fixed. Someone can have 1 year in juniors and 8 years in mid-level, someone different career goals. So it depends on your environment and your experience. When it's come to that, I want to talk about where can you work. You can work in a partner, Microsoft partners, of course, which is delivering ERP solution to customers. Also, there are lots of customers have their own internal teams. You can work in a customer. Also, vendors, which is Microsoft here. We have lots of jobs in the vendor area. Microsoft has lots of developers working in our product. Also, you can work in ISV, independent software vendors, which is creating Dynamics 365 solutions. Also, you can work as a freelancer. I just want to express one of my thoughts here. I think a new graduated candidates in the early years of their career, working with a Microsoft partner can be more beneficial as it provides exposure to multiple projects and allows you to stay updated with the latest developments. While working for a customer also offers valuable learning opportunities, but if the customer states an old version and it's a post-implementation phase, etc., your learning is less. These decisions should be made with a mid and long-term career strategies in mind. As a short-term financial consideration might harm your career in the future. So in the beginning of 2 or 3 years, focus on more learning and taking more experience. And not this is the most important part of starting your career, I think. So let's talk about some challenges. Working as a developer comes with its own set of challenges, of course. We are working in huge systems and we have complex requirements most of the time. With these complex requirements, sometimes we are struggling to find a correct solution. Also, keep up with the changing technology, AI, automation, Power Platform, etc. Sometimes it's difficult. So continuous learning makes your day sometimes, as I mentioned, difficult. Also, sometimes we are struggling with the complex business processes and understanding these business processes and make a solution that business process is also sometimes challenging. Also, we are working sometimes big clients which has big data issues, and these clients have performance requirements, and every code and every field you are creating, you need to consider performance. Sometimes also it's very challenging. And these days, lots of companies, how can I say, it's very security oriented. So security is also sometimes can be a very challenging thing. And of course, collaborating with the consultants also sometimes difficult because they have a busy schedule. You have a busy schedule, and you need to collaborate with them. They need to understand you. You need to understand them, and you are not speaking same language, etc. It can be a very difficult. Also, end user understand the end user requirement also can be a challenge because in our remote world, we are not directly see end user how they are using system, etc. So sometimes we are creating solution not fit end user requirements, and we have challenges over there. And I want to talk about an experience of mine. Years ago, while working on a project, we had a requirement to automatically generate item ID values from product codes provided by a customer. So our customers get their item ID from vendor's product ID. Okay. However, these codes contain lots of special characters, as I wrote example on the right side. So when we see these codes, we said you cannot use these special characters in an ID. It's not best practice. So we suggested let's remove all of them. But the client doesn't want to do that, and they ask us to replace with dots. I don't know why, but we have accepted this. And later on, it's deployed and they started to use the system, etc. But after months later, they said, we have a report and the report has a strange behavior. The values are not correct, but we don't understand why is showing these amounts us. So I spent entire day troubleshooting and only realized the issue end of the day. Some of product code has two special characters side by side, and after our replacement, they turn into two dots, which, as you may know, representing as a range in X++ queries. This was breaking the logic. So always test extensively and stick to best practice whenever possible. Otherwise, you may find yourself in a situation like this. Also, you probably know this email in the left side. So testing and sticking best practice is very important. Okay, this is my. I need to talk about AI, right? You know, it's a buzzword right now, but my main focus is not AI today. But I just want to say this to you. It's a transforming world right now in ERP system, even our ERP now called AI ERP. And maybe you watched the Satya's last speaking. He said, our business logic transforming an AI agent. So in the future, probably as a developer, we will be responsible for creating AI-related solution for our customers. So we need to be aware of these changes, and we need to adapt and understand these new tools and how to create a solution, how to make our business logic more AI-related tools, etc. I will not focus on this too much, but you know, AI is everywhere, so you need to understand and you need to start using. Of course, I know every coder using in their daily coding life, but even our ERP and our making project style is change after ERP, after AI. So you need to aware of these changes and learning the technologies, Copilot Studio, agents, etc. So let's talk about key investment areas of ERP development. If you are an expert in X++, you need to widen your expertise with Power Platform, low-code, no-code tools, and AI, of course, and cloud-based ERP architecture. Of course, still Azure and cloud-based functions are very important. Also, AI, as I mentioned, you need to know the AI features. You need to follow these AI enhancement. Also, soft skill and personal branding is one of the most important type. In this era, soft skills and communication, problem solving, very important. Also, you can build your online presence in the social media and technical media. It's very important. Sharing knowledge, engaging with the community, certification, and networking. These will be investment areas for you to focus. Let's talk about Let's talk about education. Of course, a formal degree is still important. So if you earn a relevant degree in a computer science, business, and IT is very good, but it's not must. So in other fields, you can, of course, convert yourself to be a developer. But one of the most important part is continuous learning, as I mentioned before. Also, I think most efficient way to learn is doing and training. So when I start to train X++ in 15 years ago, I realized I didn't know lots of details about X++ because I am not using them in a daily basis. So it's when you teach, you need to know, and when you're trying to explain something to another person, you are understanding and your mind is growing. So learning by doing and sharing and teaching and mentoring is very important to your career. A developer is one of who never stop learning, actively seeks real-world experience, and contributes to community. Keep learning and keep sharing. So let's continue. Also, when we are talking about continuous learning and how it can be done. So there are lots of online platforms to learn on. Also, we have community engagements like Learn and Udemy, LinkedIn Learn. Also, we have lots of hands-on learning platforms. Also, we have communities like this you can attend. Also, you can follow Microsoft Fast Track and also Microsoft MCTs and MVPs and solution architects. So there are lots of things to follow. These are one of the learning resources you can follow. Of course, I am putting myself here too. You can follow me in my blog and my YouTube channel. But of course, there are lots of way better place to follow to learn X++, Dynamics 365, AI, ERP, and features of Microsoft. Okay, I'm going right now. As a successful career in Microsoft Business Application doesn't happen by accident. It requires a clear goals, strategies, planning, and continuous learning. Let's discuss how setting these right goals and lead long-term success. In my life, I always set goals. So I set, for example, okay, I need to have a solution architect certificate in 6 months or in 1 year. So I need to work at least 2 projects. I need to write one technical blog for example, in 1 month or 2 weeks, etc. You can start to create a goals, and you can start to work for them. No matter where you are in your career, setting a clear goals and continuously improving will keep you ahead of the curve. So define your path, take action, and make an impact in your career. For that, I think for me, one of the biggest career impact was becoming MCT. Let's talk about that too. One of my previous work, I was working for a partner, which is also has a training company. They are making software development trainings in the school environment. So when I started, when I started to work for this company, I met an MCT over there, which was a very experienced guy. So I learned how they are teaching, what they are doing, and I started to. I said him to that I am eager to have become an MCT and give this training, because it's teaching and while teaching, learning is very good for me. I was very happy to share my knowledge with the students, etc. So I became an MCT, I think 15 years ago, and it was a huge impact in my career, because right now maybe in Turkey I had over 100 trainings, and I have lots of students in my professional life. So becoming an MCT is a good way to start. Maybe this can be your goals. Also, you can be focused on MVPs, of course. MVP, you all know what is MVP, but let's talk about a little bit. When you start to learn and when you start to share your learnings, you become a top contributors to ecosystem. And when you start to contribute, Microsoft recognizes this and gives you this MVP award. And when I become an MVP, I start to communicate with other MVPs, and I realize I don't know anything. So there are lots of valuable professionals all around the world, and I can learn them lots of things. So being in this community make my career or my experience way better. So you can focus on that too. If you want to stay ahead of Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, being part of community is just as important as learning the technology. Let's explore ways to engage and grow. You can join tech communities, community user groups, and Power Platform forums and other things. Also, you can attend Microsoft events, ignites, and summits, etc. Also, there are lots of LinkedIn group. You can follow hashtags, and you can follow Microsoft MVPs and solution architects and fast track architects. With their sharing, you can start to explore the system. For example, a solution architect creates a blog post about AI and X++, etc. Then you can start to read and explore the feature. Let's continue. I have 5 minutes. So, as we conclude, I want to leave you with one of the key questions. Where do you see yourself in the future and in this journey? Whatever you're inspired to be a developer, a solution architect, a consultant, or even a technology leader, your career path in Dynamics 365 is shaped by the choices you make today. You need to identify your role and specialization, and you need to build a learning roadmap, certification strategies, and learn long-term goals and stay ahead with AI and emerging technologies. With these, you can be not just a developer and a Dynamics 365 professional. And I think Dynamics 365 professional requirement never go down. So with AI, it's also not going down. You will have always a job to do, and you will be required a lot. Okay, let's bring us to the end of this session. I hope you found it valuable and insightful and maybe even little inspiring. Thank you for listening, and if you have a question, I am happy to answer here or in chats or in other social media contacts. I want to all have a great day today, and thank you again.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Fatih. So for those who don't know, Fatih normally actually does a more of a technical session. He actually delivers hands-on development training for F&O. And so this is the first time he's delivered more of a session that helps you prepare and really prepare for your journey as a developer. So it was quite refreshing to have a less of a technical session, even though you injected a lot of your technical insights here. Some of the case studies that you shared were very good examples of how easy it is to make a mistake with an F&O. So thank you for sharing that today, Fatih.
Thank you.
One of the questions that people are asking, Fatih, is learning resource, right? So we shared the link for Microsoft Learn because that's a great resource, right? Because you've got access to virtual environments to be able to test scenarios.
One of the most advanced documentation is Microsoft Learn, and there are lots of details and the learning paths over there. And also, this learning path prefers you to certification exams. You can follow these learning paths and create and follow the training paths and become, for example, if you have MB 500 and MB 700, you can become a solution architect in Dynamics 365 FO development. So, as you mentioned, Microsoft Learn is one of the key area to start learning.
Excellent. And just to remind everyone, this event is in association with Microsoft Learn, right? We're doing this event to complement the materials for Microsoft Learn, to give more context around the learning materials. So just a reminder for everyone that the key source for all materials will be Microsoft Learn. And Fatih, there's many great comments and feedback from your session today. It looks as though people really, really appreciated your session today. My question to you is, are you able to share your contact details in the chat so that the community can keep in touch with you?
Of course, of course.
There's a question by Eric who's asking, what do you mean by learning AI frameworks as key to investment areas?
I'm talking about, right now Microsoft creating lots of AI agents. So creating these AI agents right now is not our hands. We can use only Copilot Studio in our ERP system, but other systems like other AIs can also learn about our ERP system. For example, we have in our company, we have solutions integrated with our ERP system, and we are trying to make these solutions more AI related. For this, sometimes we can use other AI tools, other AIs, not just Copilot or ChatGPT. I was trying to refer this. Okay, AI not just about Copilot and ChatGPT. We need to follow other investment and other specialization of AI. And sometimes, of course, using ChatGPT is more efficient for us because it's directly in our system. But maybe some other AI focusing on, for example, a business logic, like optimizing your logistic, etc., can be more efficient to use in your product. So be open. I'm trying to say be open-minded about all AI technologies.
It's always good to be open-minded, definitely. So thank you, Fatih, for that. And so let's check if there's any other questions. By the way, there is a Q&A section. Let's take a look at the Q&A section, which is the correct place to ask you questions, by the way, guys. Here we go. So there's a question by Beau. It's asking, in many projects, many roles are missing, and usually the developers are approached to solve all the problems. What do you recommend to do in this case to correctly handle the situation? Excellent question there by Beau.
We can talk about days for these questions. Okay, it's a very difficult situation. I was there. For example, one of my previous work, I was the only Dynamics guy in a company, so I was struggling with partner and key users, etc. It's very difficult. I always trying to explain the system and trying to explain my role to other people. I was there to help them because I was the only one who knows the system. So I always told them, okay, I want to help you, but helping you make the system worse, then it's not the correct way to do. So we need to do it like this or like that, etc. I always try to explain it, system standard and system philosophy, etc. To convince them. But I understand the question. It's not easy to work with these environments, but if you find yourself in that situation, you need to focus on more, I think, more than technical skills, to focus on more soft skills, communication and negotiations, etc.
Okay, we've got time for one more question. There's some really great questions, by the way. I really love the interaction that's happening today. So much enthusiasm. I'm loving it. So there's a question by Kishwa who's asking, as I am new in this field, so what's the strategy to move forward? So Kishwa, you must have attended Fatih's session, but Fatih might go over some of the key steps as someone who's new in this field. So Fatih, if you don't mind answering Kishwa's question, that'd be fantastic.
If I understand correctly, if it is someone who newly started in FO developer, first of all, you need to know all the technical skills you require to know. You need to know X++ very well. You need to know object-oriented programming language first, right? You need to know the database system. You need to know security. You need to know advanced query optimization and database management, etc. After these core technical skills, you can focus on more integration, batch parallel processing, batch mechanism, etc. Then you can widen your expertise with Power Platform, of course. Maybe knowing especially data management like Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, it's very good way to continue. And then making a goal to have advanced certification like MB500, MB700 is a good option. Of course, as I mentioned, becoming MCT and giving mentorship or training to other people is also good learning. If they want, I can share the slides, and in the slides I try to write long explanation. It's not a good slide making process, but I want to create a slide that's like a documentation. So I can share the slides, and in the slides I was trying to explain the progress of this.
Okay, one final question Fatih. It's by Sama, who's asking, thank you, Fatih, for the presentation. I want to know if the official documentation for D365 development MB500 learning path course is sufficient to pass the MB500 certification exam.
Great question. No, you need to prepare yourself according to exam. First of all, if you are experienced developer and you didn't prepare the exam, you cannot pass. I can say it clearly. You need to prepare for the exam. You need to finish the learning paths. You need to do the tests. Then you can pass. But I think the main focus should not be passing this exam. Learning is more important. If you know, if you learn what they are trying to teach you is more important. If you do this, eventually you can pass this exam.
Okay, so we are running out of time now because we do have another session. Fatih, so please don't forget to share your contact details. And
Okay.
I mean, there is one more question by Walter, or it's a question that I personally wouldn't want to quantify it, but Walter is asking, how much time approximately can it take to prepare for the MB500 if you are a senior dev? I personally don't like to answer that question, but Fatih, would you like to answer that question, or?
I don't know, because I cannot measure the background of the people. But it's for me, I can answer for me, because I think 5 years ago I take MB500. It took almost 1 week for me, but and not entire 1 week. I prepared myself and look at the examples and look at the learning paths, and there was some new features that I didn't aware of. So I look at these details, etc. And in 1 week I passed the exam. But for other people it can be less or more. So it depends on your time and the learning method.
Well, there you go. And just to kind of give some insight into kind of exams and preparation, I mean, there are some exams where you don't even have to revise. If you've got experience, you can literally do the exam and fly through it. But as Fatih explained about some of the specific technical exams, in order to get familiar with certain contexts and certain wordings, it does really help to actually prepare for the exam to be able to pass it, as Fatih mentioned earlier.
Yes, exactly.
But in many cases, just because of your experience on projects, you can get away with not even revising. I mean, and just set the exam and do it. It all depends on who's written the exam and how they've kind of pivoted the exam. And often terminology is very important. And there are trick questions as well in exams, right? There are trick questions in how exams are worded, how questions are worded. And that's why preparing for an exam can often help. So that's it for now with Fatih. Fatih, remember to please share your connection details so people can keep in touch with you. You have a great YouTube channel. You have a great blog. Make sure people connect with you on LinkedIn, okay?
Thank you.
And whilst you share your contact details, Fatih, in the chat, I'm going to just read out Braden Short's final comment before we switch over to the next session, which is Braden is saying, I personally flew through the MB500 from experience, but I would advise making sure you would study well on the Power Platform and dual right topics, as it is now a bigger portion of the exam. It's almost caught me off guard. Excellent feedback by Braden. Thank you, Fatih, for sharing your contact details there. Make sure, everyone, you connect with Fatih. We've got over 210 people joining us from all around the world. Excellent. Make sure you connect with Fatih. And on that note, guys, I forgot to do this at the beginning. Please, can everyone who's joined today mention where you're joining from? Yeah. So if you could in the chat show us where you're joining from, so we can get an idea of everyone around the world, right, who's joining us. Let's get an idea of how much of a global event this is. We've got Croatia, Qatar, Dubai, Lancashire, Spain, India, Vietnam, UK, Florida, USA, Sheffield, Poland, Belgium, Tunisia, Sweden, Turkey, Pakistan, Netherlands, Ukraine, Philippines, Portugal, Nigeria, Belgium, India, Serbia, Denmark, Chile, Algeria, Myanmar, California, USA, Tunisia. Wow, fantastic. This is truly a global event, guys. Well done. It's great to have you all joining here from France, from all around the world joining us here for this bootcamp. So we've got over 200 people joining us today. That's huge. So well done, everyone, for joining this bootcamp. And so what we're going to do is we're going to now move over to the next session of the day. Now, I will be presenting Adria's session because Adria had a doctor's appointment, okay? But what Adria kindly did was he recorded his session because he has a doctor's appointment. Now, he may join whilst I'm sharing his session, okay? So don't worry, we're going to carry on with the session. He might, to answer your questions, he's going to join probably midway, okay? So let me get started and start with Adria's session, which is probably one of the most important sessions now from a technical perspective. It nicely follows off from Fatih's session, okay? So can everyone stay focused, okay? If you want to take a quick break, take it now, because within 2 minutes, we're going to start that session, okay? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mohammed, for the kind comments. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all the way from around the world as well. So we're going to start the session, okay? So please, everyone, this is very important. So we're going to get started on this.
Checking the code and welcome.
Okay, I need everyone's help now, okay? Can everyone hear the sound? Okay, can you just leave in the comments if you can hear my sound or not?
Yes, I can hear you. I could also
Excellent,
hear Adria.
Andre.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, Andre. And can you also hear Adria as
to my
well?
session. Today I will be talking
Yes,
about how
yes.
to get started with X
Fantastic. Thank you so much,
ALM.
Adria.
So we will have a basic overview how to develop and checking the code and have build pipelines and releases, all with X++. Well, thanks to the organization for having me and all my colleagues here in this nice bootcamp. And I think today is it's not the last. The last will be on the 20th of March, so you still can join it. And well, today we are in the Finance and Supply Chain Developer Bootcamp, as you can see. And the agenda not the agenda, sorry. First, I will present myself. So I'm Adria Getting. I'm a Dynamics 365 F&O developer and technical architect, and I'm currently working at Docentric. I'm a Microsoft MVP since 2020. So hopefully this year it will be my 5th, and I will have the 5-year ring, I hope. And you can reach me on LinkedIn, and you can read my articles on ariste.info. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions about this session or whatever I can help with. And now with the agenda. First, we will talk a bit about different development environment types, then about using TFBC or Git. We will see a basic development flow, very basic. And then last 2 points are a live demo where we will get the code to our development environment, and then we will explain a bit about CI and CD pipelines, so build and releases. So, as I said, we will start with environment types. Right now, we have 3 different environment types. The first one would be cloud-hosted environments, which have been around since the beginning of Dynamics 365 F&O. Then we have the BHD. The BHD, it's a file that you can use to create a virtual machine with everything that you need for development, and you can use this BHD on your local PC, or if you want, you can deploy a virtual machine on Azure using this BHD. And finally, we have, and of course, these first 2 experiences are linked to LCS, which is the old platform management platform that we use to manage the environments, both the development environments and production sandbox environments. And then we have the unified developer experience. And the unified developer experience is the newest one, and it allows us to use Visual Studio on our laptop or PC without having to access any virtual machine, and then we deploy the code to a Dataverse environment that has F&O installed in it. And a unified developer experience can be found in the PPAC, which is Power Platform Admin Center. And well, Power Platform Admin Center will be replacing LCS as the management place for environments. So for today, I will be using a unified developer experience, and I will show a bit of PPAC if I have enough time. So we have a comparison of LCS and PPAC. Also about cloud environment types. This is a really small comparison. So you can see the table. We have the cloud-hosted environments, BHD and UDE. And well, cloud-hosted environments and UDE are cloud environments, and the BHD is not a cloud environment. So cloud-hosted environments are deployed on your customer or your Azure subscription, and UDE environments are created on the Power Platform Admin Center, so they consume Dataverse capacity. All of them use source control. I mean, that's good. And not all of them can have the Power Platform integration set up. And this is linked to, for example, so it's the BHD environment that cannot have an integration with Power Platform, and it's linked to the fact that it's not a cloud environment, that the BHD is a self-contained environment that has everything that you need to develop using Dynamics 365 F&O, but it's self-contained. It's inside that environment. It's not on Azure. It has no view of external resources. So it's logical that there is no Power Platform integration because there's no connection between the BHD and Dataverse. But you can use a UD environment or cloud-hosted environment if you still use those. And the good news is that development is the same in all environments. So X++ is X++. X++ is the development language that Dynamics 365 F&O uses. It's been around for a lot of years already since it was released in past versions with Exapta. So before even Microsoft acquired Dynamics, Exapta, not the Dynamics 365 ecosystem. And that's good, because this means that you can use the environment that fits your needs the most, and then development will be the same exactly. Next, we will talk about TFBC versus Git. I will start with TFBC, which has been almost the default or the most used version control until I would say the last 1-2 years. TFBC is good enough. It's easier to learn than Git. It's simpler to use. But this is the bad news. It has no new features, and it hasn't been announced, but to me it looks like it's approaching end of life. If that depends on how your team will work, choosing between one or the other, but TFBC has been really good. But of course, for modern development flows, Git is much better. So if we go to Git, Git has some problems, which are that it's potentially harder to learn. It's more complex. And yeah, it's more complex when you use it. So the flow with TFBC is really easy. So moving code between branches is really easy. And with Git, it can be a bit complicated, but you need to learn it, in my opinion, because it has many more features than TFBC. It's a distributed version control, so it means that there's not a centralized place where code is. I mean, it is because we have it on Azure DevOps, but you can have your branches, local branches on your PC or your virtual machine, and you can keep doing the check-ins there. And when you're happy with the changes, you send them to the Azure DevOps. But until then, it's on your laptop or on your virtual machine. It has better code review tools. And one great thing is that it allows you to use pipelines as code, which we will see later. And well, if you ask my opinion, even if it's harder to learn and it can have more complexity, Git is the way. And if you're starting with Dynamics, I would recommend start using Git instead of TFBC. But of course, that also depends on what your team is using. Now we will see the basic development flow. Usually development, well, it starts with you coding in your virtual machine or your unified environment. You complete your task, your work items, and then you check in the code into your source control. Once it's in source control, and well, you have tested development environment and everybody is happy, you can use Azure pipelines, Azure DevOps pipelines, to build the code, create the package, and deploy it to pre-production. Pre-production, then we should have another round of testing for functional team, or if you have a QA team, whatever. And once it's tested, then the code can be moved into production. This would be more or less the life cycle of code from your development environment until production. And well, these first steps are manual. Obviously, coding is manual. GitHub Copilot is very useful, but still not doing our work, and I hope it won't ever. And checking the code to Git or TFBC is also manual. You need to do it. You need to merge branches, or you need to create pull requests to move a development branch to a main branch. But the last 3 steps are automatic. So if you have configured CI and CD pipelines, you have an automated build. It will automatically release the code to pre-production or test, however you want to name it. And once it's tested, the production step is, up until now, it's manual, but it will be automatic in the future if things don't change. So the problem is that right now we need to confirm the deployment in pre-production, and once it's done, we need to schedule manually the deployment to production.
Ras, are you there? If so, can you please check the video?
Hi, Andre. Yes, we do have some audio challenges. It should be working now. I'm going to try once again.
Okay. There's no audio, no, Ras.
Clone repository to a unified. And now that we know the basics, we will continue with a demo of the development flow, checking in code, and then the pipelines. So first, if I go to Visual Studio, this Visual Studio is on my local PC, and it's connected to a unified development environment on Dataverse. So I'm not working on a virtual machine or whatever. And well, I already have some code that I created for a demo. And first of all, I will clone the Git repo. So if I go to select repository, and here in clone repository, and now I will select Azure DevOps because it's on Azure DevOps, and it will log in with my account. So here it is. I just clone it. You can see that it's cloned into the default path. So I'm not cloning it into the package's local directory. I'm cloning it wherever Git has decided to do it. I could change that. and well, I could do that. And now I still don't have that code available on my virtual machine. So if I change here to the model view, I cannot see the Arista info model here. So what I need to do is I need to go to extensions, configure metadata, and now we need to change this root. So this is the folder for my metadata, which means my custom code. I click the 3 dots and I will go find the code, which if I'm not wrong, it should be in the source repos. And yes, so here it is, metadata. And I just need to change some fields and click save. You know, you see the extension sometimes is a bit buggy. Once it's saved, I can click close and it will refresh the models, but I always like to refresh them manually. But you can also see that now when it appears, so there is the info model is here. It's just it's a small model with just a table extension of the customer group, where I have a new field which is called is online. Yes, is online, which this is a fictional scenario. So what I mean here is, for example, to create a customer group that is for, I don't know, online customers that buy everything via an e-commerce site, for example. And what we will do now is create a new runnable class. So new item, look for a runnable class, and I will call it yes, a hello world. Not very original, sorry. And the class will just output an info with hello world. You've seen GitHub Copilot has already tried completing it. Okay, so let me move it outside. And if I go to the Git changes tab, we will see some things. So this shouldn't be like that. So I ignored the items that I will not be checking in, and I will only check in the changes to the hello world class and to the project because I added a new class to the project. The changes that you've seen that I have added to an ignore list, once you start working with Git, you need to configure the git ignore file, which you see here that it also has been modified. And well, there you just define what will be included in Git and what not. Because as you know, when you build a project or you build a model, it takes the XML files from the AOT and it also creates other files. For example, the DLL that's later uploaded to the production and pre-production environments. But we don't want that on source control. We just want the XML files for the classes or any object. So what I will do now, remember I'm working on the dev branch, local dev branch. I will check in the code and just hello world, commit these changes. And this commit is only right now on my laptop. It's not in Azure DevOps. So I need to push the changes to Azure DevOps. And okay, you can see here that successfully pushed to origin. Now this means that it has created the branch also on Azure DevOps. Opa. So if I go to Azure DevOps, here I have main, I will refresh, and now I should also have dev. And here it is. And now the dev branch has changes that are not on the main branch. This means that I need to create a pull request. A pull request, which is here, is nothing else than we are requesting to pull the changes from one branch into another. So what I do is create a new pull request from dev into main. You see that sometimes it already does it automatically. It takes the changes and it knows what it what is included. In this case, it's the hello world class, the changes to the project because I added the class file, and the git ignore because I did that. And it also shows the number of commits and which commits are included in this pull request. And I can create the pull request. And by doing that, it's not automatically merged into the main branch. This is just a pull request. And the best thing of pull request is that you can add reviewers, for example. Yeah, I will add myself because it's my project and there's nobody else there. And so after adding this another user from me, but with a different email, it says that Adria must approve. Of course, I could just force it to be merged, but the idea is that we want another person to review the code. So this other person will get access to this pull request and hear which changes are there. And maybe they can say, okay, so use double quotes and comment. And it adds a comment. Then if I went back to the pull request, I would see, oh, Adria has added a comment. I see, oh, he says, use double quotes. I said, oh no, well, I'm using a literal string, not a label, so I'm using single quotes. It's not a label. And I click reply and resolve, and it's done. Then the reviewer can check which changes and make comments and say, okay, it's okay. And then they would approve the pull request. And once it's approved, somebody needs to complete it. You merge into the main branch. Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. I'm trying to bypass something, so I can approve it myself. I approve my own pull request. And the good thing is that in Git, you can prevent somebody from approving their own pull request. It has much more options than TFBC. And well, what I will do now is remove my approver and complete it. And now you can see it's merging. And in a few seconds, we should have, okay, the pull request is completed. So if I go back to the files on the repo and go to the main branch, and in the classes, I should have the hello world class. Okay, that's good. Now we have it on the DevOps. But first, imagine that you are developing this and you want to test before checking it, and you're working on a UD environment. So what you should do is go to the extensions, Dynamics 365, and on the deploy menu, you need to select the deploy models to online environment, and then you need to select which models. And well, you have an option to also run the database sync or just deploy the code. If you have changes in the model, in the data model, you need to run the database sync. Otherwise, then you will have synchronization issues on the environment. So because I already deployed this in the past on my environment and synced the database, I will just select the deploy option. I click deploy, and I don't get any dialogues asking for to me to log in because I already did when I opened Visual Studio. But if you do some work and close Visual Studio and open it again, it will ask for your authentication again. Okay, so this is important. You can see here below that it says that the Arista info bin directory doesn't exist. What's happening here? Okay, I created the class, but I didn't build the solution. So I need to rebuild the solution. And this will create the bin folder with the DLL. because it's that what will be deployed in the UD environment. So, you know, sometimes it's good that I have some errors on a live demo because maybe they will help someone. So now we need to wait for build to finish. Okay, it has completed. We go back to extensions, Dynamics 365, deploy model to online environments. I will select the Arista info model if I find it. And once it has started deploying, it will take around 2 minutes more or less. It really depends on the amount of code. And obviously, if you select the DB-Sync checkbox, it will take longer because it needs to run a DB-Sync. So more or less 15 to 20 minutes. Also more if the database is quite large. But at least for development, you should be using a Contoso database. So my guess is that most of the times that it will be that around 2-3 minutes for deploying the code and 10-15 minutes for the database synchronization. So in the output tab, if we select FinOps Cloud Runtime, we will see what's happening behind the scenes. So we see that it has created a solution, as I said, and now it's uploading the solution to the Dataverse environment. We see also that it stops the services on the Dataverse environment. It starts the package deployment. Once this is done, which shouldn't take longer, it will start the services. And when the services are started again, see here it's starting the services. And when that is done, the environment becomes responsive again, and we will see it should work. And we will be able to test the code. While this finishes, let me show you something. So first, this is LCS. If you've been working with 365 F&O for some time, you probably have seen this. Here we have both the sandbox environments and the production, if you have it. And the cloud host environments that I mentioned at the beginning can be found here. So I don't have any in this project. I think it's logging. But if I had development environments, they should appear here, and I had all the details to connect to the environments here. But as I mentioned, LCS will be replaced by Power Platform Admin Center. And in Power Platform Admin Center, if you've worked a bit with the Power Platform, you already know how it is. We will have the environments in the Environments tab. Let me make the text a bit bigger. This is the development environment that I'm using for this demo. I can click it and I will see the details. And as you can see, these environments have a CRM URL and F&O URL. This also means that the Power Platform integration, it comes out of the box. So in the past, on the cloud hosted environments, you had to deploy the environment on LCS and then create the link to the Dataverse environment. With the new experience, everything is done basically because the F&O environment is installed as an application on Dataverse. Let's check if this is already finished. Okay, it looks like it is. Yes, it's been deployed. So if I go back to the environment and open it, it will ask me to log in and MFA, of course, even if it's my tenant, I have MFA on. Okay. Also, if you notice, the URL on the UD environment is the same as a production URL, but it's not a production environment, it's the development. So once it loads, I will try to run the runnable class. using the sys-class runner. Takes a bit to load. It's after deploying the services start and it needs to cache. That's maybe something not very practical, but it is like this. Okay, just waiting for the default dashboard URL piece. Let me make this a bit bigger again. And come on. Okay, here it is. So I use the sys class runner and CLS parameter for the class, and it was AAS hello world. And now we will get the sys class runner form and the class will run. And we should get an info. Yes, with a hello world. So you see, this is how we deploy the code to our development environment for testing. And now it's time for the pipelines. If you remember, I've checked in the code here just a few minutes ago, and I did that before deploying the code to the development environment because I wanted the pipeline to start running. So here I have two pipelines. I have a build pipeline that will generate the package and a continuous integration pipeline. Continuous integration is a pipeline that runs after each code has been merged into the main branch, because these pipelines are linked to the main branch, and it checks, or it just runs a build without generating a package. And it does that to check if the code is correct and there are no errors. If you have worked with older pipelines, the classic pipelines, you might remember that there is a visual editor where you have some tasks and blocks. But for Git, if you use a Git repo, you can use the YAML pipelines, which are pipelines as code. And the best part of this, at least in my opinion, is that you can save this pipeline as code. So you also have a track of the changes to the pipelines. So again, for example, this is the YAML for the continuous integration pipeline. You can see it here. And well, it's not completely code, so you still have some, somehow you have a bit of help in some tasks. I don't know why it's not showing here, but yeah, show assistant. I should get, so after selecting, yes, sorry. If I click on this text that is highlighted, I get a more visual, or maybe it's easier for some people because you have the options and you can click here and change them. These pipelines, or the templates for these pipelines, can be found on a GitHub repo from Microsoft. And at the end of the session, I will show a link to my blog where I will publish links, interesting links for development pipelines, the ALM guide, and also this Git repo. And well, so what we must do now is, okay, we know that it's the code is correct. Then what we would do is run a build pipeline. The build pipeline is a bit different than the CI because it has additional steps. So you can see here. And the important steps is that it's creating a XPP create. It's this type, XPP create package, and it's creating it's not a cloud deployable package anymore as in the past. It's a cloud deployable package. You can see here that this create lifecycle services deployable package is unchecked. And this means that it will create the new type of package that is used for the Dataverse environment. I will use, instead of running this build, I will use builds run in the past because it takes, 5 minutes to run, and it's not a long time, but it's shorter than waiting. So when the build pipeline runs, it creates these files. So we have this template package and the assets, and it's this DLL file. It's not like in the past, which was a zip file. It's a DLL file that will be deployed to the Dataverse environments. And if we go to the releases in the pipelines, so we have the build pipelines. The build pipelines' main purpose is to build the code for a CI pipeline to check that it's correct, or for a build pipeline to generate the package that will be deployed. The release pipelines are a bit different, are also pipelines, but they are used to get the code from the build pipeline into the environment. And for example, I have this UAT prod release pipeline. And you can see here that the source is the build. Sorry for the name. And we can see that in this continuous deployment trigger, that this line in here as a check, and it's enabled. It means that each time a build that generates a DLL file is run, this will be triggered. And then it has two steps. First, it deploys to UAT, and then it deploys to production. This is also something new, and I think it's a bit work in progress, but now it works and you can test it. I mean, don't do this kind of testing in production, but you can try. And if you know, in the past, we had to, as I mentioned earlier, we had to deploy first to UAT, validate on UAT, mark as a release candidate, and then manually schedule the deployment to production. But with the new release tasks that are using the Power Platform tools, we can deploy directly to production. Is this good? Yes, but I highly recommend, if you add this to your release pipelines, I recommend to add pre-deployment conditions and add pre-deployment approvals and have several people approve. So this means that the deployment to production won't be done until these people approve. And this is very important for several reasons. The first reason is to validate that the changes that will go into production have been tested. And the second reason, and maybe it's even more important than testing, is that you don't want production to go down anytime or during the work hours. So at least if, because of any kind of error and the build run and at 2 in the evening or afternoon, sorry, and you get a request at 3 after deploying to UAT, somebody wants to deploy to production, you say, okay, no, sorry. And this is more or less how a release pipeline looks. Of course, you have more pre-production or testing or UAT environments, whatever the name it is. You can have as many of these boxes here. That's up to you. But to me, this will be an enhancement because it will allow us to not have to schedule that production release manually. And I mean, if you've done many of them, I guess you will be happy because, yeah, in the end, you need to be online, and sometimes you cannot schedule it during your work hours, and you need to be working late. And well, as I said, these are the new pipelines. You can see this is one of the old runs. It deployed to UAT. It didn't deploy to production because nobody approved, but it was rejected. So this was some tests that I did, and well, I want to insist in the pre-deployment approvals for production. This is very important. You don't want production to go down at any time without knowing it. And that's one of the risks with the new tasks, but you know, I think it was a Spider-Man, right? With great power, it comes great responsibility. This is it. And well, if you want to learn about if you want to learn more about this, one of the links that I will share in my blog point to a YouTube video of me showing this in more detail. And well, I think that's all. And this is the link to the links page. I will share. I have shared there a lot of helpful links for learning development. For example, Peter Reimer's blog, which has a lot of interesting content and videos, and really a lot of my own ALM guide, links to Microsoft documentation, YouTube videos, whatever. And if you have any questions, you can contact me on LinkedIn, or you can find, I think you can find my email on my blog. And well, that's all. Finally, thanks to the sponsors. Thanks to them, it's possible for us to have this kind of events. I also want to thank the organization for having invited me. And well, see you soon. And I hope this has been helpful. Bye-bye.
Hi, Ras, you're currently muted.
Oh, thank you there, Andre. Just checking to see if Adria was able to join us. He said he will try his best. And whilst I take a look, thanks, Andre, for answering many of the questions people have been asking in the chat. I'm just going to have a quick check to see if Adria is online. It's fine. We've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to have a quick look in the Q&A. There's lots of great questions in here. So let's take a look. I know a lot of them you've already answered, Andre. So here we go. So the first question is being asked by... okay. So Francois is asking the question, in new projects, I see more and more technical tasks are handled by functional consultants, and furthermore, Microsoft is removing environment monitoring tools. I think it's a challenge for technical consultants. What do you think about this trend? Very good question. I agree with you, Francois. And to be honest, it's the direction in which the product has always been going, to become more and more functionally configured. Because, and by the way, Andre will be able to chime in here. Andre, feel free to chime in. But the big challenge that we have on projects is when you overly customize an ERP, it inherits something called technical debt. Now, I'm not sure if Fatih covered the term technical debt, but technical debt is a very, very important concept that developers and consultants need to be aware of when you're doing an implementation, because that technical debt of whatever customizations have been made will carry through. The customer will absorb that, and they will have to pay the price for that technical debt at some point in time. Whether it's in later sprints of the project or whether it's during upgrades. But I see Andre's online. So Andre, feel free to share your thoughts and opinions on this.
Yeah, if you look at just technical skills versus functional skills, Microsoft has at least focused on the Power Platform, also being able to enable that part for citizen developers, so the non-pro code developers. Some people think that certain parts of F&O can be done also by a bit of more intelligent functional people. I do agree it would be possible, but still people need to have the correct experience and a bit of expertise and the feeling for it. I'm one of the lucky guys understanding the technical and functional side, but I can still warn you it's still difficult. And also in my session later today about security, I will just also highlight the difference between the roles of what would require a developer or what would require a functional person, and what is the overlapping prerequisite for them. And also a bit coming to the environment monitoring. Microsoft is replacing that environment monitoring, also taking out as decommissioning part for LCS and move it to Power Platform Admin Center, where the monitoring part will also be moved to application insights. And Microsoft is also currently investing in some examples, more examples, and better visuality for application insights data.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for answering the question on the monitoring tools. We have seen some changes happen with the monitoring tools. Some are still there. They've just moved location. But as Andre mentioned, it is all being re-architected to improve a better experience, a more holistic experience, to allow you to edit those reports. Now, there's some really good questions on the transitioning between Power Platform and F&O. Jason is saying, it sounds like there is some crossover with Power Platform. Do you think Power Platform developers can transition into F&O development? But Frederick also asked a similar question. Will the Power Platform be an essential part of F&O development toolbox in the near future for more simple extensions? So these are excellent questions. And that's why we've got the keynote by Microsoft's very own Lane, who will be Lane Swenka, who will be talking about this topic. But just kind of whet your appetite. Then yes, that's definitely what's happening. We're seeing more and more. For example, your SSRS reports will be more Power BI reports, right? And rather than customizing tables within F&O, why not use Dataverse, right? And I'm sure Adria can share a lot of examples, but in my example, I basically delivered a POS, more or less a POS application in Power Apps using virtual entities, right? So that's one example of where we're definitely changing the approach of development. Andre, I'm sure you could share many examples yourself as well, where a lot of the customizations are moving into Power Apps. Even many of the features of F&O are moving into Power Apps. A lot of the new apps, especially the pricing, the new pricing app, a lot of it is actually built in Power Apps, isn't it, Andre?
Correct. Also, just if you look at traditionally, many partners came with the toolbox of AX 2012 and now Dynamics 365 Finance Operations. They think this is what we should implement. However, if you just really look at the client side, what is required, then sometimes some features of Finance Operations are too difficult or is an overkill for certain processes. And in that case, the Power Platform can be a better place to extend or make some features available to a team member of users to do more simple tasks using an app instead of the whole user interface of Finance and Operations.
Yeah, excellent. And the rationale behind what Andre is saying there is it does reduce technical debt. You know, it reduces the amount of code that needs to be maintained within F&O, which then doesn't affect your performance of the application and those inherited dependencies. So thanks again, Andre, for answering all those questions there in the chat. And we're on the hour. So we are now in time for the next presenter of today. And that's none other than Anitha. Hello there, Anitha.
Hi, Nas.
Hi, so Anitha, we can hear you. So when you're ready, feel free to share your screen. Okay, yeah, we can see your screen, Anitha. So we can see your PPT. So I don't know if you want to go into there you go, presenter mode. Excellent. Okay, so we've got Anitha joined online. Very excited to have Anitha. He's going to share about OData within F&O. If you're a developer, then definitely you need to know about how OData works within F&O. So it's a huge pleasure to have Anitha joining us today. So Microsoft MVP. She's been doing lots and lots of great work, she's got a great newsletter. Please join her newsletter. On LinkedIn, she's got a newsletter. She's got a great blog. So Anitha, thank you for joining us today and handing over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody present here. Thanks for taking your time in joining the session. Thank you, Raz and the Power community for organizing the bootcamp, because as Fatih said, it is always good to keep us updated with the latest technologies, right? So this bootcamp, be it basic or advanced, so this serves the purpose that we will be updated with the latest peripheral, the latest updates, what is going on in our peripheral areas. So thanks to you, Raz. Today's agenda is introduction about me and understanding what is OData, what happens when you combine OData with FNO, benefits of using OData, and demo with the CRUD operation. So I will be using a simple Postman tool here, because that is a developer handy tool where you can test any of the custom services, whatever you develop, right? So with the Postman tool, I will be giving you all the CRUD operations for the OData entities, and I will end the session with the key takeaways and the question answer session. So myself, Anitha Ishwaran, I am a senior digital architect. I am into this dynamic world for 18 plus years. So I started my career with the blue screen. That time it was called Accepta. Then I am still traveling with lots of learnings every day. And I am the author of the blog, which I have presented here. And I am an active contributor in the newsletter as well. So we keep updating, we keep getting updates with so many new features, right? So I thought I can use it to share with my community using the newsletters. So with that purpose, I keep updating many things in the newsletter. So if you want, you can follow my newsletter. Okay, starting the session here. What is OData? So OData stands for Open Data Protocol. This is mainly for creating and consuming the data, be it from FNO or from the Dynamics. So this is a standardized protocol for building and consuming the RESTful APIs. What is standardized here? Because the user or the developer needs to focus on the logic. So without need to worry about the request or the payload or the request or response here. RESTful, it follows the principle of REST, the representational state transfer. So it is very straightforward to use. That is not much complex here. So thus it simplifies the data sharing and the integration between the different system and platform. So how do you call the OData in our FNO? First, it's not complex. So you will be using the root URL. For instance, the FO URL, be it the development URL or the UAT or whatever it is, followed by /data. So this is how you will be following. This is how you will be consuming the OData service from your environment. Happens when you combine the data OData with FNO. So it is easy data access. So the developer need not spend his time in writing additional complex custom services here, right? Because using this OData services, it will be easy to retrieve the data. And with this, we will be able to build the custom apps as well, because since this is a cross-platform, mobile and web application can also be built. And the moment you see report and analyze data, the Power BI comes into your mind, right? So reporting and analysis, since the data retrieval is easy, the reporting and analysis using the Power BI is also possible here. With all this, it is helpful in enhancing the integration with FNO with the other middlewares like Logic Apps, Power Automate, and so this integration is enhanced here. It still continues. So the key features of this, the benefit still continues. I have just taken few of the key features here. Authentication and authorization. So any calls to and from FNO via the OData service comes via the authorization call. So how we will be using this authorization, I will be showing it in my demo, so that you will be able to understand. And this is a standardized data access, because in this case, the OData same, it is just the same. The developers can easily access the data without the need for any additional services. Not only the developers, even the consultants can use this data quickly to check how the data is created or stored in FNO. It is a metadata driven. So there is an option to retrieve the metadata for the OData services. So with that, you will be able to understand the data model for the entities. If you understand the data model, accordingly, the developer can tweak the tweak the services as per the requirement. It is a cross-platform compatibility, and it is rich query capabilities. So what are the queries used, that I will be showing it in my demo using the Postman. So it has various query capabilities with which you can do multiple query statements for select, whatever you write it in the X++. So since I am from the X++ background, whatever you write it in X++, you can interpret as a query in OData service. And it is a real-time, it has a real-time access to data. And it is not being a specific as a batch or a batch or related. It is not a batch way. The reason being, it is made sure the OData services gives the user with the updated data always. Then comes the security. Of course, the data is an asset to any organization, right? So it is our responsibility to secure the data. And of course, OData services make sure the data is retrieved or returned to the end system in a secure way. Extendability, it is also possible to extend the fields. For example, if there are some fields missing in the OData service which you are using, it is also possible to extend. So with all these features, it comes in the reduced development time here, especially for the developer perspective. Now, the next question is, are all the data entities OData exposed? No, it is not. How do you ensure that the data entity is OData exposed? Here you have something called as public property against each data entity. So only if the public property is enabled, if it is set to yes, then that particular data entity is OData exposed. And along with that, there is something called as public collection name. It is called, for instance, here you see customer groups. So you are not going to use the entity name, data entity name in the OData service call. We will be using the public collection name here, for instance, customer groups. So for instance, if there are any entities for which the OData, if it is not exposed as OData entity, then it is public will be set to no. And the next question which comes to our mind, because we have an option to extend the data entity. So then you can ask whether we can set this standard data entity, which was not set to no. Can this be set to yes when you extend? It is not possible because Microsoft has a limitation that this particular property cannot be set to yes. So in that case, either we need to duplicate it or build something similar to this one. Entity keys. So the entity keys are the unique keys which identify the each record in the entity. For instance, customer group. In the customer group entity, customer group ID is a key field which identifies that unique record here. There will be more than one field in that entity key. So it is not necessary one entity should have only one key. For instance, in this customer postal address entity, there are 4 fields which makes a entity key here. So when you query this particular entity for any update or the delete operations, you should ensure these entity keys are supplied in your request. Otherwise, the request will not work. It will end up in an error. Naming convention. Please note that the OData services, they are all case sensitive. For instance, even the public collection name, which I have shown in the previous slide, that is also a case sensitive. So if you see the field names here, so for instance, when you send the entity key along with the request for update or delete, if you don't give the proper naming convention, when you are not using the proper naming convention, then it will throw an error. It will not work. The same applies for OData action as well. So even the OData action method, if you refer in your entity, that should follow the proper naming convention. Choosing the entity. So for instance, with every new platform upgrade, we might have some additional new entity. For instance, in this case, sales order header V4 entity we have. So which one to choose for in your case? So it is always advisable to use the latest entity, the latest version. The reason being, the old version might have been set to obsolete. So once it is obsolete, which means that if there are any issues in that particular entity when you use, you will not be able to get the proper result, nor you will not be able to get any support from Microsoft as well. So it is always better to use the entity where the latest version is used here. So I think I have given you enough information about how the OData is and what OData is about. So now let us switch on to demo mode so that you will understand, so that you can understand what was told in my previous slides and how you can apply in your practical. Let me start with the app registration. So the app registration, if you remember, I told you about the authorization, correct? So how do you communicate this authorization? How do you make sure that The communication which happens between FNO to and from FNO is authorized. So this is where the app registration comes into picture. So if you want to create the app registration in the portal, Azure portal, you can search app registration. You can create a new app registration. And you can either set it as a single tenant or a multi-tenant. If it is on a single tenant, only if in the same tenant, it is possible to start the communication. If it is a multi-tenant, then the calls from the other tenant also is allowed. So usually the best practice is it depends. It depends on the ask from your organization. So usually I would go for the single tenant here. So this would take few seconds to complete the registration. And once the registration is complete, this is the client ID, which is called application ID, which will be used in all your communication. And the tenant ID is also used, but this is the one which we will be using. This is client ID followed by the tenant ID. So if you want to, so of course, this doesn't complete the app registration setup. There is something called as secret. You need to create a secret key as well. You can either go by clicking from here, or you can go in this Manage tab. You have certificates and secrets. You can create a new secret. It is not case sensitive. Ideally, it is recommended for 180 days. If you want to reduce it for 3 months or 24 months, then you can set it. I usually go by the recommended approach. So what happens after 180 days? This particular secret would expire. And it doesn't mean that this is not usable. This particular client application ID is not usable. You can come and generate a new secret here by clicking this new button. So ideally, since this is masked, so you will be able to use this value here, and make sure you copy this value and keep it in your notepad, so that because after few seconds or few minutes, this value will become, you will not be able to retrieve this value. So this completes the app registration part. And let me go to Postman. Okay, so in the auth token, I have created a set of OData service calls for CRUD operations. So how do you, all these CRUD operations should have a authorization token. I mean, a bearer token should be generated. So this is where the app registration, what we created earlier, comes into picture. I am not going to use the app registration, what I have created now, because since everything is already set up, I am just telling you how to map the client ID and whatever we have done here. So here the client ID is the application ID which we have generated there. And this is a client credential, which you say that the grant type is via the client credentials. The resource is the one, the FNO URL, which I will be using it. And the client secret is the one which we have generated using that client and secret, where we have set it for 180 days. So if you click on send, it will generate a bearer token for you. So I have set all these variables as global, so I don't need to copy paste these variables during my every call. Let us go to CRUD operation as a first read operation. As I said earlier, how the OData service is called. First is the URL, the FNO URL, followed by the data/data. If you remember, this customer group is the entity name. It is not the entity name, but in fact, it is the public collection name, what I have referred in that screenshot. So this is the public collection name. So the authorization is the bearer token here, and this will be automatically populated. And here I am going to count the number of records in this particular group. And if I click a send, this would bring me the count of records along with the values what are present in that particular table. For instance, the entity. So here, since I have called the customer groups, all this data have been brought to me. The next is, in fact, the next query option is how do you retrieve the top 5? So in the SQL, you will be able to select top 5 records from so-and-so table, right? So it is also possible to do the same in OData service here, using this top 5. So if you see, all the query operations are started with question mark followed by a dollar symbol, and then the filter condition, and then the query conditions follows. So here in this case, I am using customers V3, where I am asking to fetch the customers, top 5 customers in the order ordered by the country region ID. So here all the top 5 customers will be brought here in this case. So even if you want to filter something, so in this case, all the data, all the fields from this customer is displayed here. So in this case, if you want to filter something, if you want to bring only few of the few of the fields, then that is also possible. That I will cover in the rest of the in the other sessions here. And if you want to filter by it's a where clause. So you can correlate this with a where clause here. So filter by the customers where the customer group ID is 20. So this is how it is true. And I am bringing a count also as true. For instance, use this filter keyword. So where I am filtering the keyword, and make sure that this question mark and dollar symbol is always followed for each and every query you are doing. So even if I combine, if I want to append one more condition, then it is followed by the ampersand symbol, which means it is and here. If you can remember, in SQL, we will be giving and, or in the X++, you will be giving the double ampersand symbol, right? It is similar to that. So here this displays my, so here I don't have something for 20. If I make it as 10, then this would record, bring me the data for the customer group ID, which is of 10. Similarly, this is also for a similar one for the customer postal address, where I am filtering the data for one particular customer account. The reason why I am bringing this one here is which will be used during the update operation. And if you want to select the enums, for instance, enum querying an enum is not a straightforward approach here, not like a normal one. So for instance, if I want to bring the sales orders which are of invoiced status or the open orders, then in that case, you need to use something called as in the filter, supply the enum name, the sales order status. This is the sales order status in the field name in the data entity. Okay. And it is equal to EQ is equal to Microsoft Dynamics.data entities. This is the sales status. This is the enum. So here the enum, this is sales status, which is of back order. And bring me the sales orders of the status order, open order for this particular customer account number, along with the count condition as well. For instance, everything I have joined using and. So here, if you see, there is a count of 2. And if you want to set it for invoiced, and set it for invoiced here. And if you see, the count has changed. So it will bring all the invoiced ones here. And if you want to bring only the selected fields, okay, you can do $select is equal to sales order number, comma, and anything specific, if it is, let us say, the sales unit ID. In that case, this would bring us only these 2 fields. Like if you remember the field, including the field list in the select statement, right? So like that, you can do like select sales order number, sales unit ID from the sales order, from the sales table. So this is how you can interpret in this OData query here. So till now you have seen all this data is getting fetched from the USMF entity, right? For instance, because this is the base entity for the administrator, for the client ID, what we have created. How do you see that? Let me go to the FNO screen and I can show you this. Okay. Where do you map this particular client ID and where is the default company? You need to go to system administration. Let me collapse setup. And you have Microsoft Entra ID application. So here you will be mapping the client ID, what you have created earlier. And usually we will map it to the super user ID, and this ID, wherever it is mapped, this becomes from this company, this becomes the base company. So from this company only the data will be fetched by default, unless and until you specify something called as cross company. So if you see in all our services, in all our responses, this is fetched from USMF. So in case if you want to fetch apart from USMF, apart from the base company, so if you want to filter from, if you want to fetch the data from other company, use the keyword called cross company. Set it as true and supply with whatever the data area ID you are going to fetch. For instance, here I have given USRT and USSI. And I am applying the select field list condition where I need to display only the 3 fields here and order by the customer group ID. If you see, these are all similar to the X++ or the SQL keywords, the where clauses here, order by, then the field select. All these are similar to the X++ and the SQL thing. So I am going to order by the customer group ID by fetching the data from USRT and USSI, having only the field list as customer group ID, data area ID, and the description. So if you see, this has fetched the data from both USRT and USSI, right? And it has even ordered, because since we have given the order by the customer group ID ascending, if you want to set it as descending, it is DESC. So here it is ordered in the ascending order of customer group ID, and it has brought the data from both USRT and USSI with only the 3 field list here. Metadata. So if you remember, if you want to understand the data model of the entities, whatever present here, you can use the metadata, because here there is no way, it will take some time to populate the data. The reason being here, there is no way to apply the filter to fetch the metadata only for so and so particular entity. So this would take some time to bring the data from the system, because it is going to cover the entire the metadata, right? So this will take some time. Just give me a second. Let us see if it is, yeah, it's brought. So here you will be, here also you will be able to, if you want to query for something, you can do like this, and then you can see customer groups. So customer group. So if this is our public collection name, you will be able to either get the data, what are all the properties present in that, what are the fields present in that you will be able to get via this metadata call. Then the next is expand. So this is drilling down. So for instance, if you take the purchase order or the sales entity, you will have child data sources, correct? For instance, the purchase table followed by the purchase line inside that, the inventory and so inventory dimension, so on. So in that case, if you want to get the data for the child data source, then you can use the keyword expand. But here one limitation here is you will be able to drill down only to one level. This is one of the limitation in FNO when you query using the expand. So in our case, if I am going to query from the purchase order header with expand, get the data from the purchase order lines. And as usual, I am not bringing all the data here. I am only going to take the top one, or it is as per, if you want to get the top 5 or top 10, you can adjust your query parameter accordingly here. So if you see, the value would have fetched the purchase order lines as well. So how much ever purchase order lines are present here, so those will be brought automatically with this one. So, but only thing is, inside the purchase order lines, if you have the inventory dimension or the customer or also the vendor, so those details will not be drilled down. This is one of the limitation. Then the next one is the arithmetic operation. So for the numerical fields, where if you want to fetch the sales price of the items where the sales price is greater than 150. So then you can use something called as GT. It is called GT means greater than, LT means less than. So here I am going to retrieve the data from release products. So this is also, it is the invent table in our case, the invent table entity. So from the release products, I am going to query only the sales price and the item number. If you want, you can add extra fields by using a comma separator. And as usual, using that ampersand, the AND operator, and the filter, I am giving sales prices greater than 150. So it will fetch all the items from the USMF entity where the sales price is greater than 150. If you see, these are all greater than 150. And if you want to add a count also, you can add the count symbol here, the count operator here. So here there are 6 here. And similarly, it is for the less than. So here, for instance, less than and not equal to. So same, I am going to filter the items where the sales price is less than, LT is less than, and the sales price is not equal to 0. Don't fetch me the items which are not equal to fetch me the items which are equal to 0. And as usual, I am only bringing the item number and the price, and I am going to order by the sales price here. If you see, these are all the items where it is less than 150. And if you see, these are all ordered. Since here I have ordered by the sales price, it has been ordered in the ascending order here. And if you want to add a count, since the count is already added, you would have got the count. What is the count with this condition? That would be displayed. Then there is a wildcard. So you remember, you can relate this with the wildcard where item number like star test star. So in F&O it is percentage. So if you want to query something like that, it is also possible here. Where for instance, here I am searching, it is a simple one where I am searching the release products. For the search name equals, I am including a wildcard character here, star cables. So fetch me the items where the search names having this cables, and only these as usual, only I am bringing the count as true, whatever bringing the count as well, and the select, I am getting the field list as item number and search name, and I am ordering by the search name, ascending or descending. So earlier I was using ascending in my other examples. Here I am using the descending here. So if you see, these are all there are two items where, see for instance, here it is cable is there. So it ends with cable. So similarly, if you want to search a customer where for some name or country or something like that, then you will be able to bring this name bring the field name here followed by this wildcard character. Make sure, again I am repeating, make sure these are all the case sensitive. So even if you give some wrong name here, if it is something like, then it will not be able to fetch the proper name for you. It will give you the name, search name is not there. So this is highly case sensitive service here. So make sure the case sensitive, the names are separate properly. So here completes the read operation. The next is create operation. So you have an option. You can also create a data here, right? So for instance, the same pattern. Only thing I am using a post method. In my earlier calls, if you see, it was all getting the data from F&O. So we have used the get operation, the get the request here. So this is a post request. So you are going to send something to F&O. You are going to create the data in F&O. So that is via the post method. And I am going to create a data in the sales order pool. So these are all I am giving the mandatory keys. So there are so many fields in the sales order pools if you want, and I am using the mandatory fields for this demo purpose. So this would create, see, it cannot create because the test pool is already existing. So it will not allow you to create unless DMF, for instance, if you send some data to DMF, it will try it with the same request. It will either create or update, correct? But in OData service, this is not the case. If the key is already existing, then it will throw an error. So let me try with 111. It has created. And if you see, the default company where it has created is USMF and NQ. So this is also similar if you want to send something via the DIXF framework using the NQ approach. So this will be created as a batch in F&O where it will be processed as a batch. I am here one of the the example what I have taken here is the customer groups. This is a standard API connector, the API URL where I have replaced this activity ID with the activity ID what I have created in F&O, followed by the entity. The entity name is customer groups. This is not the OData entity name, but rather the label here. So even from this postman, you will be able to create the entity name from the NQ as well. Let me try this. So as soon as you send this, the message what you receive here is the message ID here, the response what you receive here. So if I go back to my F&O, inside the customer group, I have created an import project for this purpose. So this is the customer group, what I have used there. And this is via recurring. Here in the manage messages, this is the response what you have received there, 5750. So this is in progress. So if it is processed, then it will set the status as process. So you can not only send it as a real-time data, but even you can send it as a XML as well. I mean CSV as well. So these are all the few things which is helpful for our developer purpose. So you can do it even from the front end as well, where you can import via the import project, you will be able to test the data. Or if you don't have access to logic apps, but if you want to see how the recurrence is working, then via this one also it is possible. So if you see the message ID, what is received here is matching with the message ID, what is created there. It is also possible to send it as a batch request. So this is via the $ with the batch. This is a keyword. So till now, if you had seen, all our create operations is having only one request with it, right? You have not sent more than one record in it. So if you want to send more than one record, how do you do it? This is mainly for testing. Maybe if you want to see a performance scenario where what happens to my process when I send more than 10 records or 15 records or 20 records at the moment, how it is behaving. So in that cases, this batch will be useful. So let me just show that to you in a notepad. So if you see at the moment, I have created only 2 records here. This is using the post. Okay. And if you see the change set, I have given us each record is having a unique change set. So under this change set is one of my record. So I can create in different companies using this one. See for here, I have created using in USMF. Here I have created in USSI, but in USSI, the change set ID is different. The template remains the same. And this is where you need to bring your data, whatever fields you wanted to test, you need to bring. So this covers your one record. So similarly, you can create multiple records here, and then you can do it for your testing. In case if you are sending more than 10 records to your service, whether it is behaving properly or not. So all this you can send. So here, let me go. And as usual, if the record already exists, it will throw an error. Otherwise, it will create. For instance, here it has created. I was trying with the test batch as the group ID. It has created. And see this one, since it is already existing in the USSI, this has ended up in the error. So the behavior remains the same, because if there is a record already existing in the system, then it will throw the error. Otherwise, it will create. Next comes the update. So here the update, if you remember, the update is always will expect an entity key along with it, including the data area ID. So the entity key, what you are sending here, should also include the data area ID. For instance, here I am going to update the test pool. Okay, I think this one I would have already created in my previous request, test pool, and I am going to update this test pool with the data area for the data area ID. And this is the pool name. I mean, for instance, the pool name might be, let me just have a look. Sales pool. So here sales pool 11, it is as test pool updated. Let me give it as. Okay. So here I am updating. You will not get any response as soon as you send. It will be as 204 no content. If there are any errors, then you will be getting some error in the response here. So which means that this 204 no content, it means that the pool is, that particular record is updated. So if you see, it has updated with this one. And here we are supplying the pool ID and the data area ID here. This is with one key. So what happens, as I had already told you, there are entities where you have multiple keys, right? So in that case, let us take an example of customer postal address. So here I have 4 keys here. One is customer account number, customer legal entity, address location ID, effective. And this data area ID would not be mentioned in the entity key, but it is mandatory to supply this data area ID in all your update or delete request. That is what is an ask here. And how here, see, usually what I would do in such cases, I would do a read operation first, get these details like effective date. So all these details you will get when you query it for the customer postal address for this particular customer. Let me go to this postal address. Okay. So this is the same customer which I am going to use. So what I usually do, this is for our unit testing purpose. We as a developer, we would do some unit testing, right? So in this case, this would be helpful, but not in a real-time scenario where in the live scenario where this would happen. So for instance, here you will be able to get the effective. For instance, this is effective. This is one of the main key in the postal address entity. So make sure you give a proper effective date and time here. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the result. And for instance, here, if I try to give something which is not correct, you will end up in the error. It is not found because one of the key is wrong. So make sure the key is proper. The key values, whatever you are giving here is proper. I think this one, yes. Let me see if it is effective is proper or not. I should not have a semicolon, I mean quotation here. Right, this one. So this means that the data is updated. So if you go to US 003, then the data would have been updated. So I have this here with me, the customer master. Okay, so if I go here, Avenue Bootcamp. So this is what I have updated and it has updated here. So these are all few, especially when you are dealing with the postal address update. So these things you need to take care. Otherwise, these are all a learning because I spent most of the time in cracking this update because that would take, since we have four keys, entity keys here, and that too few, we cannot take it from the front end. And you need to read the entity first and then you need to then bring this data here. So these are all few minor things which should save our time. And we have covered the update operation. Next comes the delete operation. So delete operation is also will expect the entity key with it. For instance, the pool ID, I am going to delete from the pool ID, so which I have created earlier, and there is no body for it. This is only a which here, if you see, this is a delete. In case of update, that would be a patch request. In case of create, this will be a post request. In case of delete, this is a delete request. So you will be giving the pool ID, the entity key here, followed by the data area ID. So if it is existing, then here also you will get it is no 204 no content, which means the result is success and the pool would have been already deleted. Like if you see earlier, we would have created this data, but now this would have been deleted from here. It was 11, it was deleted. So the last one is the OData action. So for instance, the OData action, it is decorated with the keyword called sys OData attribute. So there are many OData actions which we already have in the standard. One such action is the message status. For instance, if you want to get what is the message status of the one which we have created earlier, right? We have created a message, recurring job message status, right? So if you want to give what is the status of that particular message what you have sent, whether it is processed or failed. So in that case, you will be able to use this using the post request, you will be able to get this OData action. This is called OData action. You can also make use of the existing OData action. Otherwise, you can also create your own OData action to serve its purpose, because this can be used in any, even the logic apps, Power Automate. You can test it via the Postman also. If you give the specific parameters, whatever you have given, it is a normal method, but it is decorated with the attribute called sys OData attribute. So this completes our demo. So I need to say something about the OData action because I didn't show you how the OData action looks in our system. So if you see, it is a normal method. There is no difference in that method, but it is only decorated with sys OData action attribute followed by, and if you make sure the parameter, whatever you are giving, it is case sensitive. Make sure whatever the parameter you give is matching with the parameter when you call from the Postman here. And yes, so if you see the standard One, I have taken the example from the standard data entity where you have number of sys OData. The OData actions is called, it is not X++ method, it's a normal X++ method, but since it is decorated with sys OData action attribute, it is called as OData action. So as I said, it is possible to develop your own OData action. For instance, if you want to post something or if you want to retrieve something from your entity, then it is also possible to use it. But one limitation with the OData action is you cannot write in the extension, you cannot extend the entity and write an OData action. You need to create a new entity and then you need to write an OData action for that. So this is one of the learning which I did, because when how I learned here is in the extended entity, this OData action doesn't work. So you need to have one entity for it and then you can do it. This is one limitation in the OData action method. Pros and cons of this service, the OData services. The integration is always via, you can be both OData and custom service can be, it can be a near real time, right? Immediately you can see the result, all the updated results. And the volume, what it will handle is 6K for 5-minute window. So if it crosses 6K, there is a possibility of throttling. So anyway, there is a throttling means the system will not be able to send you the response because it has crossed that particular limit. But one advantage what we have in FNO is you can define the throttling limit for the service, for the application ID or the user ID. You have an option to define that. So accordingly, the system will be able to handle it. And the frequency is it can handle 52 concurrent requests at a time. So these are all the pros and cons of OData service. And the key takeaways what we have, I think we have almost reached the end of the session. Just a quick recap of our key takeaways. So we learned how to combine, what happens when you combine the OData with FNO. And I have given you how to create the app registration with how to create a secret and how do you give the API permissions. And here, how to map this app registration in your FNO so that the permission it is, so the FNO recognizes whether it is an authorized call or not. And the enums, the CRUD operations, in one of the CRUD operations, the read operations, we saw how the enums are used, and the create operations using the post request, and the patch operation for the update request, and the delete operation for the delete request. And we ended with OData action. How do we consume the OData action, being in a custom or a standard? This brings us to the end of our session. And thank you, Uras, for giving me an opportunity to share the knowledge with our community. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Anitha. Wow, what a whirlwind tour. Lots of great tips shared by Anitha there on how to successfully use OData with FNO. Lots of considerations, as you can see, with an ERP that you have to consider when you're using OData. And there are some questions in the chat, Anitha. I'm just going to find the questions. Is that okay? So there's lots of great feedback here. So I think the first question being asked by Robert is, great session, Anitha, and very well explained how OData works. One question, you showed quickly that the app reg is mapped to the super user in D365FO. I know this is working and it is used in nearly every project, but I want to learn how to have a limited rights on this. Do you know, or do you know of any information about this particular area, especially interested in the licensing part, but also what is the minimum role in D365 to use the OData? So this question is a combination of licensing and security, Anitha. So don't know if we've got time, but do you have any responses for Robert on this particular topic?
Usually you cannot define this OData entity for a role, because for instance, you are going to retrieve the data from the system. See, it is like admin access, right? Only the super user will be able to access the data for that particular client app registration. So it is not possible to limit or access that for any roles which are having limited access. So does that answer your question? Because
Thank
even
you,
I
Anitha.
tried with very, very limited roles. For instance, we have some functional standard roles, right? So even I did some groundwork on that. I tried attaching that particular user to that role, and then it didn't work for me. So the OData is expecting the admin access for for both F&O, retrieval and creation.
Thank you, Anitha. The next question by Yuan is, in OData, can we see the enum label instead of the enum value?
Enum label, I mean, do you mean the field names here, or which one are you asking?
Yuan, if you
Enum
could,
names.
yeah, if you could clarify your question there, Yuan. Well, it sounds as though he's looking for labels versus values.
Okay. No, because this is retrieved from the SQL, right? So it is not possible to get this one here. So this is by default, whatever you see in the front end, that is what you are going to see here as well. It is not possible to retrieve the labels.
Okay, let's see. So there's a question by Abdul who's asking, is there a way to limit the number of records returned?
No, see, that is what I told you. You can limit by top. There is a keyword called top, right? For instance, I had showed you top 10 records of the customer. So this is how you can limit. If you don't specify that, it will bring you maximum 10,000 records it will bring you. But as I said, retrieval or creation, that will end up in a throttling. So it is always best way to either limit the records with the top keyword, or you can do ascending or descending, the order by method, and then bring it combine along with the top keyword here.
So Sajid Kumar is asking, how can they limit the queries using legal entities?
I am just searching for the question. I just need to interpret what is there a limit to?
So word for word, Sajid said, how it knows which legal entity to insert.
Yeah, that is what I said. Yeah, that defines the default company. So by default, if you don't specify any company, it will be in the default company where that admin user is attached. Here in my case, it is USMF. So if you want to send the data to different entity, for example, USMI or USSI, then you need to specify the data area ID in your request. Then automatically it will insert that in that concerned legal entity.
Yuan is asking about the Postman workspace, if that's something that you've published somewhere.
Okay, so I can publish, but I think you should have your own credentials for it. For example, the app registration, right? I can publish. In fact, if you refer my blog, I would have given all this request in my blog, all the CRUD operation, so that I would have given. So on top of it, if you want to give this Postman workspace, I will be able to share it. But unless and until you have your own app registration, it will not work.
So Abdul is asking, is there a concept of inactive and active status reasons rather than hard deleting records you can deactivate? Oh, I think we've lost Anitha.
I mean, sorry, I didn't get this question. Yeah, I didn't get this question. There is a concept of.
So basically, I think Abdul's coming from the world of dynamic CRM, where a record can have an active and an inactive status. So when you delete the record, it's not physically deleted from the database. It becomes inactive if you wanted to implement that logic. And he's asking, is there a similar concept in F&O?
No, it is not the case. If you trigger a delete, the one which I have deleted, right, it would have deleted from the SQL table as well. There is no soft delete or hard delete in F&O here. Does it answer this question?
Yes, yeah. So lots of great feedback, great presentation, great session. Thank you so much, Anitha. Great to see you again. There is a question by Nicole who's asking, I would like to know the list of APIs available in Dynamics 365 F&O.
Okay, so at the moment, we don't have any such standard. I mean, you don't have a list of APIs. So what I usually do is I am developing something to get this for me. Like I can put it in my GitHub handle. So maybe in a month or so, where a standard, whatever the standard OData APIs, so that I am planning to publish it. So, but anyway, that keeps updating here, Ras, you know, right? For every PU upgrade, you will have a new OData request here. So, but that is you will have a set of standard APIs, but on top of it, I will keep updating. So that will be in the next month, I will publish it in my GitHub handle.
Excellent. I think we've gone through most of the questions. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if I've missed any. Okay, Anitha, just give me one few seconds here. Okay. Yes, there are a couple more questions I've missed. There is one question by Sai, who's asking, how can we use OData API to create bulk records like sales order headers and sales lines within a single call?
That is not possible. For instance, you can create it using a single separate request. If you remember, I have shown you the batch request, correct? So using the batch, you will be able to create it for a single entity. For instance, if I want to create for general journal, or even if you combine it with the general journal lines also, it is possible. So you can combine those entities, header and the lines, and you will be able to achieve it via the batch. I think that is also in my in one of my blog posts. So maybe you can refer that. I have given a batch request where I have created a record using the general journal header and the general journal line.
So the next question is there any new OData service that supports parent-child in a single call, for example, sales header and sales line? Obviously, we just answered that question. The next question is, what are action methods advantages over service? Is it similar to custom service methods?
I think the question is about the OData action, right? So the OData action is similar to a normal custom service, but you don't need to have a big template for it. You can get it done you can get your work done in a single method. I mean, for instance, I am going to incorporate the post logic here. So I can write 2 lines of post logic in my OData method, decorate it with this OData operation, this OData action attribute, publish it. That's it. You need to do a full build of the model plus sync, and then your OData action will be ready to use. So it is similar to custom service, but you don't need to spend much effort on it.
Final question by Gitler, who's asking, is do update also supported for an update action?
I'm sorry, what is it? I didn't get that.
Is do update also supported for an update action?
Do update, yes, this is the update action you are going to call if you have a do update, do update will not be triggered. The reason being it will skip the base validation, correct? That is a fundamental scenario. For instance, if you do update or do insert, it will skip the base validations what the table has. So in that case, this will not work.
Okay, I think we've answered all the questions. So there is one final question that's just been posted by Effican, who's asking, assuming that I created a new entity or extended one, will it be accessible from the Power Platform environment, i.e. via Power Automate?
It is accessible as long as you set that property is public as yes. So only if you set the is public as yes, then it is OData exposed. Otherwise, you will not be able to consume this new entity. And extended, you cannot do an extension you cannot set the extended entity as is public to yes. That is the limitation in FNO. But the new entity, if it is set as is public, then it is possible to consume from Power Automate.
Excellent. Wow, you must have answered a lot of people's challenges. A lot of the FNO developer community, as you know, Anita, are still new to Power Platform, and I think you gave some really good advice on how to use OData properly with the Power Platform. So thank you very much for that. And
this is also one of the way of unit testing, Ras. See, for instance, if I am working with logic apps, due to billing, you cannot trigger the logic apps every time, correct? So in this way, you can call your API and immediately test it using Postman. So this is how I learned. So thought I can share it with that community.
Absolutely fabulous. Thank you for sharing that information. Anita, we need to do one more thing before we move to the next section, and that's to share your contact details in the chat. So if you could share your blog, your LinkedIn, I know you've got a newsletter, really good newsletter that you have as well. So if you could share your LinkedIn and your blog so that the community can keep up to date with all your latest news and updates.
Sure, we'll share it, yeah.
Excellent. Wow, guys. So once again, huge round of applause for Anita.
Thanks, Thank you, Raz, for arranging this session. A big shout out to you.
Thank you so much, Anita. It's a huge pleasure. Huge round of applause for Anita. It's always great to see these new stars being born within the Dynamics community, and Anita is definitely one of them. So Okay, so lots of great feedback. Everyone learned something from that session. We will be proceeding with the next session with our own Andre. Everyone in the F&O community, you all aware of Andre, who spends a lot of his time on the forums and blogging and sharing all the latest information. So we are grateful to have him here today. In 4 minutes, so you do have 4 minutes. I know it's been a quite intense day for everyone. And Sujit, you're right, it is coffee time. So grab yourself a coffee yes, have a break. This is a boot camp, so feel like you're at an event, right? The whole idea behind this boot camp, these boot camps used to be in person, but we wanted to bring it out to the world, okay, so that everyone else can attend and get a flavor of the experience. So it should feel like you've taken a day away to come and learn, because you can't learn multitasking, right? It's very hard. There's a lot of content to be shared. And so we put these boot camps together to provide that immersive experience whereby you can have an accelerated learning curve, right? So we've taken time out from our days, from work, to be able to give this boot camp. And I know a lot of the attendees here today, they have blocked their time out and they are really immersed in the boot camp to really get the most from it. If you're not, that's fine, right? If you're not completely immersed, you're kind of multitasking in this very busy world that we're in, and we've got deadlines, that's fine also. But yeah, this bootcamp is headed for those people who are really focused on learning, want to hit their milestones. I want to go from 0 to hero. So once again, thank you, Anitha. Thank you everyone who's all the speakers so far. And remember, you have a break. So in 2 minutes time, please take a little bit of a break. Take your eyes away from the screen. Give it some rest. Go and get a break as we proceed to our next session with Andre.